Good morning. We are here today with Julian Sado, and he's going to talk to us a little bit about some leadership skills and a way that we can try to understand ourselves a little bit better and how we can become better ourselves by understanding those things. So welcome today, our guest on TNT, and we look forward to hearing what you have to teach us.
Well, thank you very much. Look forward to talking to you.
All right, good morning, 8:45. Sorry, let me get in here. I forgot my bell. The bell's an important item. Yeah, so we'll look right up here. So make sure you get in the shot here. All right, so we got Julian here with us, and he's kind of awesome. He came over nice and early, and he was on time and well-prepared, well-dressed, well-groomed,
Thank you.
and all ready to teach us. So I'm going to hit the bell and let Julian go ahead and talk about some items that he wants to talk about.
Okay, so I want to ask you guys, have you felt the change? Have you felt the change in the market? Have you felt people finding information on their own and feeling so committed to the knowledge they have that your knowledge is maybe something that you're struggling to get across? It's because the system has changed. The people have changed. Our culture has changed. And so I want to ask you guys to really think about how people are feeling these days. People want a connection, but they want information very quickly. So how do you provide information quickly, at the same time give a value-add emotional experience? And that's what I want to talk about. It's very important that we think about how our system has made us focus on getting things done fast. But in reality, we all want the same thing we wanted since the beginning of time, which is that human connection, that human experience, and the feeling of relationship development with each other. How do you do that? Well, that's what I teach. I teach you how to connect with people within a second and make them feel like I can never live without you. And that's what I'd like to talk about today.
Wow.
Yeah.
Within that fast that they could never live. You know,
Yeah.
You came in here today and you did a couple of things that I thought were, noteworthy, right? So I felt I connected with you. You asked me some questions that were important to me, right?
Yes.
And that was kind of a big deal. I think you kind of get it. So we happened to run into each other. I was at a mastermind event. It was a DFW mastermind. It was some of the top producing agents. And I was there, and he was addressing us and teaching us and telling us all types of different items. And you have an event coming up that you invited us to, and I personally signed up. I felt it was worth my time. You guys all know that I do not get out and go to a lot of items unless they're really, really impressive and important. And I felt it was worth my time to sign up. So later on, we'll get the information, I'll share it out, and anyone who would like to attend can attend with me. I'll make sure I get that information out to you guys, and I'll put it on the Wikipedia page after. But he was just teaching about leadership, about guidance, about learning, about understanding yourself just a little bit better. And it was all really, really good stuff. And I felt we need to bring him in to share and talk a little bit more.
Yeah,
so now the stage is set.
Yeah.
Continue on.
Yeah, so what we're talking about is really the concept of leadership in the sense of connection. And so we get so wrapped so close to our own vest. You guys know, in your industry, you're busy. Even when you make a sale, the next sale is your next focus. You're never stopping. And so with that said, business becomes your ultimate goal. But in reality, your tribe, the relationships you create amongst your peers, the relationship you create amongst your employees, your team, all of those things are as a foundation of everything. And we're all the same in a lot of ways. For instance, we all have an average of about 400 emotions a day, which might fluctuate, but we all have the same emotions. So with that said, you know that any emotion that you invoke in somebody becomes their reality. So it's hard to change a perception. So the goal is to recognize whatever emotion I start right now is going to be the perception this person has for me for a long time, unless I really make an effort to shift it. And so keeping that in mind, I guess I can use a good analogy of this. So have you ever been to a restaurant and you've driven by that restaurant and you've told somebody you were driving with, I'll never go back to the restaurant?
Okay.
It's because of a bad experience.
Yep.
The bad experience is normally because of a waiter or maybe some service there, but they're not the owner. It's the waiter, right?
Very true.
So that waiter, who's probably not even there anymore, has made it where you will never go back to that restaurant. Mm-hmm. And that's how powerful emotions are. When I learned how my own emotions created the same behaviors and the same habits and the same outcomes that I had for so many years, and I took ownership of that, I was able to redirect myself and get to the level that I wanted to get to. And that's why I get to train people that are, well-known people. I'm their behavioral coach. I coach them to think about how they react and respond to their life. And so now I'm trying to bring that to the market so people can see how they're responding and reacting to their life and take ownership of that. So that's what I'm doing.
You know, we had not too long ago, I would say it was probably 3 weeks ago, my wife and myself and our Friday night group had that same exact experience at a local restaurant here. I think it's Uncle Julio's. Open right over, no, what's the name of it? Papa Lopez. Okay. Papa Lopez opened up literally right here. And we went right over there and we had a bad experience with the wait staff. And all the people that were with us, like 10 of us, were like, we're not coming back here. And it wasn't logical, right? It wasn't that the food, it wasn't that the atmosphere, it wasn't that. It was just, we just had kind of a really crummy wait experience. And
well, that's how the brain works. And that's why I teach is that if they teach you the science behind yourself, your ego doesn't get in the way and it doesn't emotionally look at me and hear me say something and go, I don't believe that, and shut down. So I teach people how the brain works. So what happened to you was the amygdala took over and it pushed that cortisol in your body, and everything in your logical part of your brain, which is the neocortex, literally shuts down. It doesn't fire off like it used to in a calm state. And the cortisol is a fight or flight response. And it makes you want to literally just escape. I don't want everyone to deal with this ever again. Well, in our industry, that is one of the prevalent things we have in our industry. Everything is based off stress for 22 plus days until we close. And so it's very important for real estate agents to recognize this too, is that the stress that we give to our clients as we mask it as, I'm just letting you know, that alone could create a scenario where that customer doesn't want to see you ever again. So if you call them again in 6 months or a year or 2 years, that social memory that they have, just like the restaurant, is like, I never want to experience that again. So thanks for calling, but no thanks. And so the goal is to recognize, how do I create an experience that is not that restaurant scenario where they don't have that memory of stress associated with you. And remember, it takes literally 6 seconds to create a perception. So that moment of, well, I don't know what they're going to say, they might not accept your offer, that stress is really what they're associating you with. You're now a product of that stress. And so the goal is, how do you say things that don't do that? And so that's why I'm trying to teach real estate agents and mortgage professionals to think about that. I'm going to change the name loan officer because we associate the word officer. What does that associate with?
Yeah.
It's like, why would you call yourself an officer? Because if you're especially associated with authority and you're dealing with a self-employed borrower who already has an ego, you're already creating a dysfunction between you and them already. So I'm trying to get people to understand the subconscious, not so much the conscious habits that we're accustomed to based on the fact that everyone's been doing it.
Okay, so you said a couple of things there that I want to unpack just a little bit. So you talked about 22 days. And how'd you come up with that? What was the
Well, that's been in the mortgage industry. It takes about 22 plus days to really get approval and get closed. So it's really that kind of thing. So I've come from the mortgage industry mostly. I 20 years working with loan officers and mortgage professionals and companies, helping them design process and procedures. 22 plus days is where the processor usually holds that loan. And my focus has been heavily on the processor because a lot of mortgage companies, the loan officer gets the pre-approval, but the processor is the one that's coddling that customer for 22 plus days. But they never train the processor in sales communication. They train them on systems. They teach them how to upload docs into their system, but they never teach them how to communicate. And so the disconnect in our industry and on the mortgage side is the loan officer might be great at building that relationship, but the processor who is overstretched, has 28, 30 loans in their pipeline, is constantly in stress mode, is saying, I'll call you back. Why haven't you got me this back? I need this right away. It's creating that environment that is stress. And so I'm trying to develop a program to help people see the difference of relationship building versus process building.
Okay. Well, I thought what you were saying from the loan industry side was there's 22 business days in a month. And that was how they work Monday through Friday.
Right.
Well, we're on the real estate side and we work 7 days a week. So it's a 30-day close. So we see it as 30 days.
Exactly.
The lending side, they might see it as 22 days. I don't know.
And that's a great point. And that goes back to, and I coach some interesting realtors. I say interesting because I call them interesting because I'm learning from them as much as I can. But here's the thing. A lot of realtors get in the business of real estate because they want to be their own boss. And then they realize they have no time for themselves as a realtor. They had more time for themselves when they're 9 to 5, right? So that's a great point. You definitely you don't rest. So you're always on call. You're a superhero, basically.
Well, I would not be. So one thing that we try to do internally, so maybe we could talk about this one a little bit, because you're saying about building this rapport and those things. We have an internal concept that we talk about all the time that at the very least I preach, and I think we do a pretty good job with. And the concept is called passing the praise internally as a company. So it's kind of a little concept we came up with ourselves. So it kind of starts the first time that the person inquires, and we never talk about ourselves or me, but rather what we'll say is, you're going to be meeting with this person, and you're going to work with my wife, and she's amazing, and I'll talk and praise her. And then as soon as she meets the client for the first time, she'll pass the praise around to the next person and say, you know, after we get this under contract, you're going to deal with Stacy, who's her client coordinator, and she's going to be this and that. And then Stacy talks really highly. When Stacy has the person on the phone, hey, in the beginning, maybe Stacy would say something like, hey, I saw that you got an opportunity to talk with Mike in the beginning and met with Shauna. Isn't Mike really nice, and those things? And we try to envelop the client with passing the praise and talking highly about the other person, not about me.
Does the other person hear it?
I hope so. Yeah. That's kind of the concept, is that they get to hear
and that's
4 or 5 really nice things.
The thing is that whenever you hear your name in a positive way, it's the same chemical reaction from this, literally a physical attraction. So saying someone's name out loud, saying they are amazing, gives them that same emotion. That's why, Starbucks knows this. That's why they call your name when your coffee's ready. They know if you hear your name in public, it's that same chemical reaction from a physical attraction. Feeling like someone's physically attracted to you, that chemical that produces within a millisecond, it's the same thing. The word "my pleasure" from Chick-fil-A. They know if they say that, even if it's ingenuine, the subconscious picks it up as being genuine, because the subconscious does not know the difference between real or fake, which is why you might have your heart rate beat at a scary movie, because you know it's a movie, but your heart rate's still going to pound. That's the power of the subconscious. So learning that's a great thing you should do. Everyone should do that. And it's interesting enough to think about how a lot of times we might find ourselves speaking negative about a person we're working with. Like, it might be the loan officer, it might be the company, the bank, the mortgage company. I don't know why they would say that. I don't know. I'll look into it for you. Well, what you're doing is you're creating a cortisol experience, not a dopamine experience. You're not creating that positive. So it's very important what you just said, to take that to the next level and never say anything negative about anybody in the experience, because it just associates that negative with you.
Well, so, and another thing that comes up with, from the same exact DFW mastermind group, I was in there with Kevin Cannon, and he talked about plussing up the other agents. And I think you were in the room for the same thing. And that was one of the concepts that I brought back and shared with everybody, that was important, that we never want to speak negatively of another agent, even if they're not in, they don't work with us. We don't want to attack them. We want to build them up and say, hey, I'm sure they had a difficult day and they're very busy and super, right? And there's a different way to go about things.
Exactly. And that's exactly what people will associate. Anything you say about somebody else is what you'll say about them, right? So I remember when I was working 9 to 5, I had a leader, my boss. Anytime I met with her, she would talk negative about all of my peers. She would just complain about how they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing, and I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. But that didn't make me feel good. It made me think, well, when she's in the room with them, she's going to associate me with everything I'm not doing and talk about how good they're doing. It doesn't serve you to speak negative about anybody, especially if they're not in the room. Or even if you feel negative, you got to realize the end result is always going to be a cortisol experience. And so getting the science of communication, understanding that, you're able to curb your own experience, own ability to focus on that. It makes you more aware and in tune with that concept of, what I say now is going to create either a chemical that's positive or a chemical that's negative, and which one do I want to create?
Okay. Well, we have 9 o'clock on the dot. That's going to conclude everything for today. I will share out all the information so we can get to this. I am attending his next event. It's a smaller one. It's going to be over at Kensington Vanguard. They're hosting it there, and we'll invite everyone to it. There's a charge for it. I think we get some type of meal or something along those lines.
Free lunch. I also have a special guest coming in. It's going to be heavily involved in the science of communication, using science of leadership, how to retain your employees. If you have a team, how to retain those employees, because most people don't want to work for you. Right, let's be real. Most people don't want to work for somebody else. Most people want to feel like they're their own boss. How do you infuse that on a daily basis where they feel empowered? And basically, how to think about this market, how to focus on developing yourself longevity, not how to react to what's happening today, but longevity, how to create that longevity in your future, that building your brand now. That's what I want to teach.
Perfect. All right. Well, that was a really good day today. I appreciate it. I love to have top end people on here to get to talk and share. And I think we accomplished that today. So we'll shut this down and we'll see you guys later. Thank you very much.